Well, good day to you. It is February the 1st. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And as always, as I like to do, I just kind of want to point out to those people who are new, but if you've heard these videos before, I'm going to remind you too, that if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, what he's going to be teaching humanity in the future, what's the most important thing that we should be doing now, even though most of us don't even know that he's out there speaking on TV and those kind of things, if you want to see if there's any truth to this information, investigate it for yourself. You know, I always encourage everyone to check out the Share International site first, but there are other links and other websites that talk about this information, and you can check out those too because they might give you a different perspective on what I'm having to say. So hopefully you'll look into it. They're all free, and like I said, they're all there for you whenever you want to look into it. Now, want to come back and join the discussion? Let me know what you think by posting a comment. You can also post your question in the comment section, or you can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. I had a few comments, and I had one question. I want to thank everybody who took the time out of their day to do it. Let's see. Satish Sial, 7172. You asked, who was Benjamin Creme's master? And I was all excited to get a question, and then when I read it, I was like, oh, I can't even answer that question. And I can't answer that question because Ben never said who his master was. He said two things. Okay, and I'm going to, but your guess is as good as mine when it comes to, after hearing what he said who his master was. He said his master's name, although he wouldn't give it out, was very well known in esoteric circles, in those kind of things. The other one was he said he's a senior member of the spiritual hierarchy on this planet. That's all he said. If you're familiar with Alice Bailey, she has a book, Initiation Human and Solar, where she lists out the work and activity of some of these masters. Some of their names are well known, not only amongst Alice Bailey groups, but also the Benjamin Creme, Share International groups. Let's see, some of the people who perhaps don't buy what Alice Bailey's talking about, the Ascended Master groups and those kind of things. So some of their names are very well known. And I would say if you were to look at the list on Alice Bailey's book, the Master Jesus, the Master Moria, the Master Joao Kul, the Master Kudhumi, and the Master Rikuzi would be names that would come to mind that would fit those two things. Senior members of the spiritual hierarchy and whose names are well known. But your guess is as good as mine. Eventually he will be known for who he is, just as Maitreya is known for who he is, but it won't happen until after Maitreya's out in the world after the Day of Declaration. And then he'll start to introduce these masters one by one, and starting with the Master Jesus, and then working his way around his tiny little group of masters that will be working in the everyday world. So the other hint that Ben said was that his master was still in the Himalayas, so was not in one of the major cities, from what I gather from what he said. But it could be wrong, and the situation could have changed. So he might be in the everyday world now. Now, there are masters in certain cities like New York, London, Darjeeling, Geneva, Tokyo, Rome, Moscow, LA, San Francisco, Beijing, and Paris. But those are the cities that I know of. But even though they're living in those cities, and they have for decades, nobody knows who they are. So it's not like they have any kind of ashram there or starting to give teachings to the people and those kind of things, like they will in the future. But some of the masters, and this is, how it's going to look kind of, not all the masters are going to be teaching humanity directly. Others will be working with tiny little groups on a certain aspect of the plan. So for instance, there'll be some masters that will just be working with the United Nations on the principle of sharing, because that's going to bring about justice and sustain peace in the world and so forth, and eventually bring about manifested love on this planet. So it's a very important job. They're just not going to be teaching humanity as some of these other masters would be. According to Alice Bailey, the Master Jesus, for instance, will be working with the churches and cleaning up a lot of the distortion in the Bible and the misunderstandings in the Bible, getting more closer to the truth of what he had said 2,000 years ago and those kind of things. It'll be up for people to accept what he has to say or not. There's nobody forcing anybody to believe any kind of new religion or dogma, but he's just going to be asked by the churches, did you mean something by this? Or what did you mean by this? Or did you actually say this? Or whatever their questions will be. And that will be a large part of the work of Jesus. but he will also be teaching humanity that isn't religious. I want to hear what he has to say too. You know what I mean? Other masters like the Master Morya, the Master Kuthumi, the Master Jwal Kul, they'll be working more directly with teaching humanity and those kind of things. It's been said by Alice Bailey that the Master Kuthumi, his job is quite extraordinary. His will be to open the hearts of all of humanity over the coming time. Quite an extraordinary job. But so they all have these, and that's just touching the surface of what these masters will be doing. It's not the extent and the end all be all of it, So we'll know more about their work as time goes on and we know who they are, but they will be the examples for us of what it means to be truly divine, to be perfect, to live totally with unconditional love. They will be the perfect examples for us, speaking to humanity, guiding humanity, working humanity, however they work it. They all know nothing but love and joy and wisdom and those kind of things. Have all the knowledge in wisdom of the ages at their fingertips. They can very easily answer any question about anything. It doesn't matter what they already know that they already know. They don't even have to look it up. You know what I mean? Maitreya will be the teacher for all of humanity. But these masters will be looked to by in whatever field of endeavor it is, whether it's city planning, the principle of sharing, teaching humanity directly, or whatever. We'll look to them as what we will eventually be. We'll ask them how to do something so we don't have the missteps that we normally do. And we'll be able to progress a lot faster than we could possibly imagine. But like I said, unfortunately, I can't answer the question of who his master is by name. But like I said, your guess is as good as mine. And the other thing I wanted to say too is, I knew Ben for years, saw him many times, knew him pretty well, but maybe not as well as others, and those people who were very close to him, I knew very well. And they never, ever, ever, not Ben, not the people who were very close to him, ever once said that he slipped up and said who his master's name was. So he kept it pretty tight to the vest. And the reason why is because these masters are aware of our thoughts. And if you're thinking of them by name, they are aware of that. And they have thousands upon thousands of things that they're doing at any moment. And if they have to, in any time somebody thinks their name, that draws their attention to them and they waste their energy to some degree. So for him, it was better for us just not to even know his name. And for me personally, to be honest with you, I really didn't care what his name was, because when reading these articles, I got a really good sense, probably the best sense of how these masters think, what makes them tick, how they're going to be teaching humanity than I could anywhere else. So it didn't really matter what the master's name was, But like I said, eventually we'll know. And I don't think it will be it won't be very long after he starts introducing these masters that we will know who his master is or was. So hopefully that helps. All right, now let's see. Dear Gary, the much expected one may come from South India as the Nostradamus predictions. The majority of the youth in South India are talking about it. Interesting. I don't really put a lot of credence into Nostradamus. I know a lot of people do, and I'm not, that's that blows your skirt up, then let it blow your skirt up, I guess. To me, I never really got into it, because most of his things is talking about destruction, talking about the world ending, bringing about fear, and Ben's master, who shall remain nameless, said fear and joy are equally infectious. We don't realize by talking about things, by thinking about things that bring about fear, it spreads like wildfire, and it can be very destructive. So, like I said, I don't think there's a lot of truth to what Nostradamus was saying, although something will happen and then they'll look back and go, this is what he was saying. They never say it beforehand, they just say it, after the fact. But be their own, I guess. So anyway, but thank you very much for the comment. All right, now I did get some religious comments that came my way, and I, truth be told, I actually like it when people comment, and I like it when people tell me their religious views. I don't have a problem with somebody's religious views. I know they have a problem with what I have to say, and actually I don't have a problem with that. Now the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I wanted to really touch on, I think, probably the biggest misinterpretation of the Bible, or how it's being misinterpreted. Maybe not the biggest, but how it's being so misinterpreted by people. To me, it's very easy to believe something and not do anything with it. It's much easier to believe something, see somebody else not doing it, get upset with them, when all along you're just as guilty as what you're thinking somebody else is doing. You know what I mean? Now, I heard a video last week, I think it was, and unfortunately I didn't save it. It was a little short, little snippet, but it really explained to me in a very short amount of time the problem with most people's interpretations of the Bible. But he says we're living in a world where people think that a snake literally spoke to two people thousands of years ago, and that pertains to what's going on today. And we should be very much aware of that and think that that's true, I guess. I'm kind of adding that part in. But then when it comes to what Jesus said, love those who persecute you, turn the other cheek, those kind of things. Well, he was just whistling Dixie. It doesn't mean much. And it certainly doesn't pertain to what's going on today, especially politically and all those kind of things, with the divisions and so forth. And it's so true. That's the problem. They are attached to one or two things that they read. It creates this confusion because they think that that's true, even though really all science would disprove that to not be true. It would disprove it to be true, right? And prove that it to be not true. But then when it comes to the really meat and potatoes of the Bible, the real truths of the Bible, what Jesus was talking about, you sow, so shall you reap. Looking into that, diving into just that one statement. I think if you forgot all about the Bible, all the main characters in the Bible, all the parables and stories in the Bible, and just focused on what Jesus said, what you sow, so shall you reap, and apply that to your life totally, that would change your life more than believing 99.9% of the Bible and unconditionally and going to church every Sunday. To me, that's because the law of cause and effect affects everything. The masters will tell you not only what you do, but what you say and what you think goes out into the world and comes back to you for good or for ill. So if you perpetuate your fears about what Nostradamus is talking about, I'm not picking on you, I'm just saying this in general, or anything like this, or any kind of conspiracy theories, even if you think you're doing the right thing, you're actually putting out fear that spreads, and eventually it will come back to you in that way. If you put out love and hopeful thoughts and creative thoughts, well, that comes back to you in the exact same way as the fear part would. We have that choice in our hands. We can choose whatever one we want to choose. Now, I wanted to briefly talk about a myth, okay? Because I do think that there are myths in the Bible. They're not proved scientifically. It's just kind of taken to be true basically because somebody said it was true. And just as the myths of Greek and Roman lore, some of them had a kernel of truth, and that's where they came out about it. But if you don't dive into the inner meaning of it, it means nothing, really. So rather than me talking about a biblical verse in this way, I wanted to talk about a Greek myth. So when I read it, I'm going to try to tell you the different reactions that somebody could have based on this, okay? And then you can kind of translate it into what I mean about the Bible and the confusion in the Bible. But this is about the myth of Hercules. Okay, so looming above an almost primordial ooze of brown paint is the seven-headed Hydra, a serpentine monster whose dead and dying victims lie strewn about a swampy ground. Calm and youthful, Hercules stands amid the carnage, weapon in hand, ready to sever the Hydra's seventh immortal head, which he will later bury. So, one reaction could be that historically did happen. There really was this warrior named Hercules. He went in to do battle with this monster. Those monsters existed centuries ago but don't exist anymore, or whatever it is, right? That could be a reaction that somebody has based off of this. Somebody might not be sure. Somebody might be saying, well, that literally happened. You need to believe this, because at some point this could happen again, or something, whatever, right? Missing the whole time the real point of what the inner meaning of what that story was about. Other people might go on the History Channel or on the Learning Channel and try to find the cave that he actually did this in Greece or whatever, or wherever it was, to see if there really was evidence of a seventh-headed hydra. Again, missing the point of the actual story of what it was. The story was about the overcoming of fear. The seven-headed hydra is a representation of fear, not an actual monster. Hercules was an actual teacher at the time, but was not what the image that we have of Hercules being this strong, muscular young man that does battle with this monster with the actual sword. But the overcoming of fear is not by chopping its head off, not by suppressing the fear, not by psychoanalyzing the fear, not by talking about the fear, not by, ignoring the fear, but by bringing it into the light of day. That was the only way he killed the seven hydra. He had to drag it out of the cave. And the light of the sun is what killed the seven-headed hydra. Not as historical fact, but as a symbol. So the only way to overcome fear is to do the three things that Maitreya always says is core to his teachings. Honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. Especially detachment. You have to detach yourself from that fear and see that fear is not you. By doing that, you start to shine the light of the soul on that fear, and then the fear dies of its own accord, just as the seven-headed hydra died by bringing it out of the cave. Do you see what I'm saying? But if it was just about a belief about something that happened thousands of years ago, you're missing the whole point of what they were trying to say. You know what I mean? That's where I think the biggest problem is with the Bible. That's what creates the biggest confusion with certain people. To me it's a very low-level, lazy even way of looking at what the Bible is about by just believing in it. You have to believe the Bible 100%. But not dive into the inner meaning of what it's trying to say and applying it to your life especially, right? So hopefully that helps. I love you guys. Thank you very much for the comments and the questions. I look forward to putting out videos in the future. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.